So let's talk about React. I would like just to do, a very simplistic introduction about React. Yesterday, we already, shared some bits and pieces about what React is, React created by Facebook 2013. Now it is arguably the most popular JavaScript library. Yeah. So I would like just to build something without really using the power of React. So I would like to expose the problem, where the problem is, and then we will see how React can help to mitigate that problem. So I would like to build a list of things. Essentially, I'm going to display a list of movies. Yeah, just trying to align as much as possible the workshops with your development conflicts. The majority of you already managed to add some pictures, and that's actually what I would like to do today as a starting point. I'm gonna do that quite quickly because you have been already dealing with the problem, so I don't want to waste the time by doing something that you probably already know. So the first thing is, I want to add a picture, or a movie. So first of all, let me add the title of the movie. So for instance, let me add an H3 heading, and then one of my favorite movies, Megazord versus Crocosaurus. Then once you got that, remember, go back to the web browser, make sure everything works as expected. If so, then move to the next step. Yep. So I got my title. Let me change the app title instead of hi. Welcome to my favorite movies app, whatever. Yeah. Yep. So once everything works as expected, now let's add a picture. Or you are probably learning now how to add pictures with React. So the idea is you go to Google, and then you find the picture of your favorite movie. Yeah. So that has nothing to do with JavaScript, nothing to do with React, nothing to do with coding. It's just searching pictures on Google. Yeah. So you find the picture, and then you save it on your local hard drive. Yeah. Something you need to remember is to save the picture as part of your project. Don't save it on your downloads folder. Don't save the picture on your desktop. Don't save the picture on any weird location. Make sure you identify where your project is. Also, make sure you save the image inside of the src folder. That's a limitation when using React, src folder. And the last hint here is, personally, I will suggest you to rename the picture, because you have to type the name again. So if the name is very long and weird with lots of weird characters, it will be easier to fail. Let me just call it Megasark, and then I'll save it. Can anyone tell me what's the next step in order to display the movie? Import it. Fantastic, guys. Fantastic. Import Megasark from whatever the location is. Remember, with a dot slash, we are referring to a file that sits on the same folder as the current file. So my current file is app.js. Because Megasark is on the same folder, they are siblings, they are neighbors, if you like. So with dot slash, I can easily refer to it. So finally, megasark.jpg. So we import the image, and now, will that image be available for our customers? Will it be displayed or not? Not yet, correct, because we need to print it. Yeah, if I go back to my application, you can see that there is nothing on it yet. So now, to display the image, I need to type img, which is an HTML tag, src. Guys, be careful, don't type scr. I've seen many Unity developers doing that and then asking why it doesn't work. Yeah. So src equals, and then what else? Can you tell me? Curly brackets. That's very important, guys. That's very, very, very important. Whenever you want to play with JavaScript inside of the HTML, and Megasark, it is a JavaScript variable. Technically speaking, it must be surrounded with curly braces. Yeah? And finally, you just close the tag. So if we do that, hopefully, here you go, we got our sexy movie displayed on the screen. So now, let me quickly add 2 more movies. But before going that far, So let's talk a bit about programming culture. So what happened if I rename Megasark with Brexit here and then there? Won't work? Yeah. You see? Exactly. Yeah. That's probably the only scenario where Brexit will work as expected. Yeah. So yeah, that works. Why? Well, because I save my picture into this variable Brexit, and then I will just use it later on. So, however, if you're in the middle of a job interview and the employer presents you this algorithm, like, hey, let's just have a chat about it. So, tell me, what do you think? Are you happy with that? Will you change it? Why? Tell me your thoughts. Yeah, yeah, I yeah, 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 yeah. That was Maxim, right? Okay, so I agree with the guys. Do you agree with Maxim? So Brexit tells me nothing. It's throwing inappropriate semantics about the content of your algorithm, which is horrible. Yeah. So your variable names should reflect the content of your algorithms. So please don't do things like creating a variable called I or things like that. I've seen that thousands of times. And it's actually, guys, I prefer you to call it I than call it Brexit. And let me explain that. If you call it I have no idea. I have no idea what the hell is that. Yeah. So I got a big question mark on my head. But if you call it Brexit, it's even worse. Because with I, you've broken the semantics. But with Brexit, you have added new semantics. So you are telling your colleagues this is about Brexit, but in reality it's not. Yeah? So that's why we should avoid this sort of misleading variable names. By the way, you may have noticed I'm using some tricks to rename the variable. Like, look, that's pretty cool, right? That's a way to impress the employer. So you can do that with VS Code by you select the variable. That's the first thing. You select the variable, and then there are different ways of doing this. That's maybe not the best one, but at least it's a very visual, depending on the use case scenario. So on Windows, you press Control V, and it will select the next instance of that token. On a Mac, you press Command D, and then it will select the next instance. If you got three variables, or if you got the variable refer or display three times, you have to press Command D two times. Yeah? So every time you press Command D, it will select the next instance, if any. And once you got all the instances selected, when you type something, you see it will be typed as many times as occasions the variable is selected. So that's a nice trick. There is actually a better way of doing this, a bit more precise. I mean, that's fine, guys. You got the variable, explicitly mentioned two times. Fair enough. But what happens if you got it 40 times? Do I have to press Control D 40 times? Well, there is an alternative, which is pressing, I think it's F2 on your keyboard. So if you press F2 and you type something, it will just VS Code will automatically rename all the variables with that name in that file. Yeah? So you got different alternatives to generate the same result. So what happens if I call it Mega Shark, guys? Do you hopefully you notice there is a capital S. There's a capital S. Yeah? So can anyone tell me what syntax case? Camel case, that's correct. So camel case, yeah. So whenever you come across that variable type, this is camel case. Why camel case? Because that looks like a camel. You see, well, hopefully the shape of a camel in the horizon, yeah, going up and down. What if in reality I have some sort of PHP background and I added this sort of underscore to separate or to join the words. What sort of name case are we using here? No, close. That's not kebab case. Snake case, correct. Who said that? Elena, that's correct, Elena. Snake case. Yeah. Why snake? Well, because in theory that looks like a snake. Yeah. You see the S shape of a snake. Yeah? And what if I go back to the camel? However, I decide to capitalize it. In other words, I transform the first character from small m to big M. What's the name of this case? Upper camel case. All right, upper camel case. Yeah, I'm not against that. There is a shorter way of describing that, which is Pascal case. So Pascal, that is a very old programming language from the 60s, I believe, and that it was the first one to use that coding style, yeah, intensively at least. And all this code styles are valid. The next one is not, but let me show you. What if I add a hyphen joining the words, make a sort? Yeah, you see a hyphen or a minus or a dash, how you want to call it. So that's not legal in JavaScript. You see, as soon as I type it, I got lots of warnings and errors and everything. However, in other use cases and areas, that may be valid. And in other programming languages, that's valid for sure. So my question is, what's the name of the case I have introduced here on line number 2? That's kebab case, correct. Kebab case, yeah, or kebab, I don't know how to type it, but yeah, kebab case. Why kebab? Because that looks like the blade going through the meat, you know, when you go to Fabric and you get drunk on Saturday night and then you go to the kebab to get some calories, yeah, after all the dancing and drinking. So that's kebab case, yeah. Historically speaking, that wasn't kebab case. Yeah? I think it's fair to say. I don't think there is anything wrong by referring to it as kebab case, but I also like the classic description of the case, which is Lisp case. Yeah? So before kebab was even created, we already had that coding style, and that was Lisp. Why? Because Lisp, once again, a very old programming language, was the first one to use it intensively. So Lisp case or kebab case cannot, it doesn't work here. But out of the others, so either mega sark, so that's camel, or snake, or Pascal, all of them are valid. But now the question is, which one should we use? Camel? Okay, now there are two questions, obviously. So which one? And then why? Why camel? Is what? Sorry, can you repeat that, please? Is case sensitive? Well, fair enough. So yeah, I mean, you're right. JavaScript is case sensitive, but that doesn't explain. I mean, I could, yeah, fantastic. I can do that, but I can actually let me synchronize it. So I mean, I could use snake case as well, right? That works. So what? Agreement. Okay, yeah, I like that. Yeah, there's a convention. There is an agreement. I like that. A convention. But yeah, that's correct. That is absolutely correct. There is a convention saying that whenever you create a JavaScript variable, generally speaking, it should be written like that. Assuming Meg and Sark are two words, of course, which is something that we can discuss. Assuming we got two words, Meg and Sark, we should join them by using capital letter. In other words, Camel Case. But the question is, who defined that convention? Was it me? Was it Boris Johnson? Was it the Pope? Who did that? Airbnb. That's interesting. Someone has been attending my workshops recently, right? Yes, it is Airbnb, guys. And I know that's a bit shocking. That's a bit surprising. Yeah, you may not expect that coming. Yes, I mean, well, that's probably a simplified answer. Yeah, but the thing is, guys, let's talk about standards. And once again, this is the type of things that are not expected from you when you go to a job interview. But if you're able to show this sort of programming culture, you are adding a lot of value to your profile because you are showing genuine interest about coding. So when talking about JavaScript standards, there are two levels we should be aware. And I'm going a bit off topic here, but I think that it's important to remark these principles on the first week of the bootcamp. So first of all, we got the language standard. The language standard is whenever you want to create a function, you have to type the word function, and then you pass arguments with parentheses. We'll talk about these things later on this afternoon on the JavaScript workshop. And then the curly braces, and then the return statement. You see the shape of the language, the import, everything. This is the language standard. So does anyone know that standard, the technical standard of JavaScript, is defined by who? That's correct, Maxim, ECMAScript. So ECMAScript, this is a very large document. You can find it online. It's a PDF of 700 pages, so please don't print it, where you can see how JavaScript works. In other words, if tomorrow you want to create a new web browser to compete with Google Chrome, Safari, and all these guys, then you will have to implement what that document, that the ECMAScript document says. Yeah? So that's the standard that JavaScript is based on. So ECMAScript is a document, and there is a new version every year. You may have heard about things like ES6. So ES6 was the version of the standard released in 2015, and I'm explicitly referring to ES6 because that was a big version. There were many new features introduced that year. Yeah, we'll talk about these things within the next few weeks. Then of course we got ES7 back in 2016. Then we got ES8 released in 2017. Then we got ES9 released in 2018, and then we got ES10 released in ES19, and then this year we'll have ES11. I think technically speaking they are not using this nomenclature anymore, so now they just refer to this as ES 2020 and then ES19. You know, they just keep the number, which is, for simplicity reasons, that's nice, yeah, because at some point, who will remember ES8 was not released in 2017, 16, 18? No one will remember that, yeah? So let's just refer to them by the year. ES7, ES 2017, ES 2018, ES 2019, ES 2020, yeah? The last workshop of this bootcamp towards the end of June will be about the future of JavaScript. And then I would like to emphasize or to highlight the new features coming this year. Every year there is a new version of JavaScript. Yeah, and actually this year I think there are some interesting new features coming to the language. Generally speaking, new releases of JavaScript are published, I think, by the end of June. So it's literally by the end of the bootcamp. Yeah? So it's good timing in the summertime. So that's the way JavaScript works. But now the point is, who writes that document? Who spends hundreds of hours writing every year a 700-page document? Who is the responsible of maintaining the standard of JavaScript? Is it Google? Is it Facebook? We are. All right, that's very romantic. That's very romantic. Yes, we are. Yeah, we are all the community. Yeah, but yeah, it's actually, that's not wrong at all. That's not wrong at all, because now the standard is very open, so anybody can contribute. However, there is still today a central organization orchestrating the community efforts. So does anyone know who is that? All right, I'll show you. This is no. This is MI5. Yes, no. This is TC39. So TC39, that's a non-profit group of people based in Switzerland, somewhere in the mountains, in the green mountains of Switzerland. Probably not. Probably just they are based in Zurich in an average WeWork building. But the thing is, this group of people is the responsible of deciding what can we do next with JavaScript? Yeah, and as someone suggested, thankfully, this group is very open these days. So now everybody can suggest new ideas. Yeah, we'll talk about some of these ideas within the next few weeks. But that's the first thing. When we talk about JavaScript standards, that's the most important one. Yeah, the language itself. Can I send what? Can I? Sorry. At TC, you got it on the right. You got it on the right hand side, Vicky. I think I was Vicky, or who was that? TC39. If you search on Google, if you do TC39, I mean, you'll find out, GitHub repo where different, many different aspects. Yeah, I don't want to go that far today, but at some point I'll probably will visit that project and see what's happening. All right, so that's the first level of defense when talking about JavaScript standards. However, there is a second one. So the second one is about styling. Styling standard. Styling means how do you name the variables? As we're discussing, should we use Camel, Snake, Pascal? I'm talking about break lines. Should we have a break line, guys, before a return statement? Yes or no? I'm talking about indentation. Should we indent the code? Yes or no? You see? The thing is, in JavaScript, indentation doesn't have any impact on the result. In other languages like Python, if you fail indenting your code, it won't work. But JavaScript is very flexible. Look, that looks absolutely horrible. That's the worst thing I've seen in my life. However, if I go to my web browser and if I refresh it, it still works. So styling has nothing to do with the standard itself. The standard means if you don't follow the standard, your code doesn't work. But styling is about the readability of your code. And of course, there are some patterns. By the way, if you mess around, guys, if you do something absolutely wrong, I can make it even worse. Look. Yeah? So if you do something like that, there is a way to automatically bring it back to a more natural shape. And the way to do that is if you do right-click anywhere on VS Code, you select Format Document, or on Mac is Option Shift F. On Windows is, I think, Control Shift F, I believe, or Windows Shift F, something like that. Yeah, you'll find the shortcut when you do right-click. So when you click here, boom, you see the code returns to normal, which is nice. So that styling standard is defined by multiple companies. So every company has a different standard. So Google has a standard. Mozilla, the creators of Firefox, they have another standard, and Airbnb, they have their own standard. And interestingly enough, Airbnb styling standard, quickly became the most popular one. And I'm not just talking about JavaScript, I'm also talking about React. Yeah? So things like, should we use single or double quotes when using React? Both are valid, it's just about the styling. So according to Airbnb, we should use double quotes. So if you are curious about these standards, so you can search on Google Airbnb React style guide, and then they will select it. So once you click on the first result from Google, so they will essentially tell you how to work with React essentially. So I was talking about example with quotes. So when I select quotes, you see, they tell you always use double quotes for JSX and keep single quotes for other JavaScript. And that's pretty cool, guys, because it presents you some examples of bad, you see. So don't use single quotes, good, use double quotes. And guys, let me tell you something that may sound stupid, but at some point you'll go to a job interview and they will either present you a piece of code or they will ask you to write some code and then to talk about it. So you see how powerful this is. So even if it's not part of the discussion as such, you got a fantastic opportunity to put your balls on the table. So defending, yes, I have used double quotes because according to Airbnb, according to their style guide, we should use double quotes instead of single quotes. Why? Based on, following HTML conventions. Yeah. So once again, you got a fantastic opportunity to prove your value beyond the expected performance. Yeah, so according to Airbnb, we should also use Camel Case to define variable names, and that's why we are going to use them from now on. Any questions so far? Yeah, cool. Awesome. So now let me quickly do something. Let me add a couple of pictures. So I want to have at least 3 movies on my screen. So I selected the first one. So let me actually find another good one, like Sarctopius. Actually, if you get bored these days, guys, rather than drinking a lot, you can probably watch some of these movies. I'm sure you're gonna have fun. So let me. There is a world to discover out there, my friend. Yeah. Yeah, I will just tell you guys, it was invited to go to, well, not invited. I'll pay the expenses, but I was invited to be one of the extras of one of these movies because I'm making a lot of marketing for them. I'm spreading the word of these movies. All right, Sarctopius with some Jaeger bombs is one of the best experiences you can have. So Sarctopius, and then one of the most recent ones, even though it's a bit commercial in my opinion, but it's Shark Exorcist. It's a really good one as well. So let me save it. Remember, guys, to be careful with the variable names. Shark Exorcist on the SRC folder. So now, I'll quickly display them. So I got Shark, import Sarctopius. It's probably one word. That's a bit personal. From Sarctopius.jpg, and finally import Shark Exorcist from sarcexorcist.jpe. Yeah, be careful with the variable extension. So now let me copy and paste. You get my point, right? I'm gonna copy and paste the first movie because I want to display 3 movies. By the way, you can copy and paste by copy and then paste, blah blah blah. There is a very beautiful shortcut on VS Code. If you hover a bunch of lines, and then on Mac, you hold Option Shift down. On Windows, I think it is Control Shift down. Oh, you see, it gets copied at the bottom, which is pretty cool. That's pretty cool. So then let me rename the movie titles to Sarctopius, and finally to Shark Exorcist. So then we got Sarctopius, and then we got Shark Exorcist. So, and then of course let's make sure that everything looks okay. So if I refresh my page, Sarctopius, and then finally Shark Exorcist. Obviously the UI looks a bit weird, right, with different picture sizes, but that's fine. This is not a UI UX session, so at least I hope you agree with me. Technically speaking, I got my pictures on the screen. But now let me present you the problem. I got 3 movies. Imagine that we release this application with 3 movies, and we start making some traction, getting customers, becoming multi-billionaires, trips to Ibiza, all these sort of things. And now our UX specialists, after doing some research with some sort of A/B testing with customers, they want us to change the size of the movie titles. At the moment, we are using H3. Imagine that UX specialist invites us to change movie title size from H3 to H2. Then my question is, how many lines of code do I have to change? I want to change all the instances of H3 to H2. How many lines do I have to change? 3 lines, that's correct. One per movie, yeah? So the first movie, the second movie, and the third movie. Yeah, that's correct. And hey, guys, that's fine. That's fine. If I do that, that's fine. Yeah. Now, I'm not sure if you noticed, but the titles are slightly bigger. That's fine. But do you see the problem? What happens if I'm Netflix and I have, instead of 3 movies, 3,000 movies? You see the problem? That approach won't scale anymore because I will have to update my content 3,000 times. And by the way, I can hear some echo. So let me try to find. All right, I don't know. Because of the window. That's interesting. That's cool. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you very much. Cool. Yeah. So you see, so we had to update as many lines as movies our database has. That's obviously not great. That approach doesn't scale. So let me introduce you how React can massively help here. I'm anticipating task number, I think it's task number 7. So let me present you a component. A component is one of the key features of React. A component is essentially a function. This afternoon, I'll talk a lot about functions because a function is just a JavaScript feature. I can create a function. Let me call it movie. Yeah. And as part of that function, guys, you need to get used to the syntax. So you type function, then the name of the function, then you type parentheses, you open and close them, and then you open and close curly braces. You will obviously explain what every token means shortly. Yeah, but for now, that's what you do. So when you create a function, then you return a piece of, in this case, HTML. So for instance, div hello. Yep. So now, how can I display hello on my screen? Look, the function or the React component is just a new available HTML tag. You see? So if I got a function called movie, I can display the content of the movie function, whatever it returns, by just typing movie, as like if it was an HTML tag with the opening and close symbol. You see? It's so simple. It is so simple. Because React functions are written in Pascal case, starting with a capital letter, you can probably notice, not sure if the video quality is good enough, that Visual Studio has changed the color, which is great because that helps on the process of identifying my React components. You see, the regular tags like div, h1, etc., images, they are displayed in blue color. However, my movie component is displayed in some sort of, I don't know what color is that, but it's not blue, it's some sort of turquoise or light blue or green, whatever. Yeah. So let's see what happened. Let's see what happened. If I refresh my page, you see, I got my tiny hello message on top. So now I got a question for you. Can I display the hello message multiple times? Will this work? Yes or no? What do you think? Yes, of course. That's the beautifulness of components in React, that you can display them as many times as you want. So now let's do something. I don't want to display hello. I want to display a movie. So let me move my first movie and let me get rid of the next one. And before going into any further details, once again, to me, from a styling point of view, that looks smelly. You see all these weird spaces here. So you can do 2 things. First of all, remember, right-click format document. That will help a bit. However, if you want my personal suggestion, I really like to do something. I really like to add a parenthesis at the beginning and to close the parenthesis at the end. Why? Because now, if you format the document again, for me, this is much easier to read because the opening div is aligned, vertically speaking, with the closing div. You see? So this code is much easier to read under my coding standards, at least. Yeah? So can anyone tell me what will be the outcome of this snippet? 3 movies. That's interesting. You are absolutely right, my friend. So we got 3 movies, which is correct. That's what we wanted, right? We wanted to have 3 movies. However, it is the same movie displayed 3 times. Why? Well, because the component is hard coding all these details, hard coding the title and hard coding the picture. Thankfully, with React, we can change things a bit by passing some attributes. Look at how sexy, how declarative the API is. We can type title or whatever we want, technically speaking, and then pass the name of the title. So Megashark versus Crocosaurus, and then we can pass a new title. Title equals Sharktopius, and finally we can pass title equals Shark Exorcist, something like that. Yeah. So we can pass some attributes, some dynamic data to the component, and eventually the component will display these details. However, will it work now? Yes or no? All right. So yes. Anyone disagree? So so will the titles be dynamic this time? Why not? So the component, guys, is still hard coding Megashark versus Crocosaurus, even though we are feeding the component with some nice details. The component itself is ignoring that information. Yeah. So how can we? Aaron, do you mind muting yourself for closing the window? Cheers. Thank you, mate. Uh, oh, say it again. Uh, okay. Sorry, guys. So how can we bind? How can we link both components? So we'll talk about some of these details later on this afternoon. But for now, just bear in mind that in JavaScript you can pass arguments. An argument is a piece of data that we can pass to a function. We'll talk about that this afternoon. Okay? We'll present many examples. But for now, remember, you can pass something called props. And props is an object. We'll talk about objects this afternoon. But for now, remember, props is an object holding all the details facilitated to the function. So props is an object containing the title. So rather than displaying Megashark versus Crocosaurus, if props is an object containing a title property, does anyone know how to display the title here on line number 10? Curly brackets props.title. Let me ignore the curly brackets. Yeah, we'll talk about curly brackets in a minute. Without the curly brackets, the idea is absolutely fantastic because that's correct. Props.title will display whatever we are facilitating on line number 19, 20, and 21. Yeah, props.title. However, look at what happened if I execute that snippet. You see, props.title is hard-coded, which is a bit weird. You know, when you subscribe to any website and on your birthday you got an email saying happy birthday $user, and you say, who the hell is $user, right? That's because they failed to transpile or to interpolate that template that they got for all their customers into some meaningful personal data. Yeah, so that's the same example as someone suggested before. Remember, props.title, this is JavaScript, guys. Props is a JavaScript variable, so props.title is JavaScript code. So remember, whenever you want to use JavaScript inside of your HTML, you have to surround the expression with curly braces. So now, if you refresh, you can see your 3 titles are correctly displayed on the screen. Any questions? That's a good question. That's actually the next step. Yeah. So you're right, my friend. So the titles are right, but the pictures are wrong. So that's fine. Let's feed the movie component with the picture details. So I would like to add a new attribute called picture, and now megasarc. Before going any further, that's wrong. You see VS Code is complaining. You see, whenever you got some red text on VS Code, that means something is wrong, yeah? So can anyone tell me why that piece of code is wrong? .jpeg. No, that's actually not true. Curly brackets, that's correct. Look, we're trying to facilitate the variable we imported on line number 2. So that variable is JavaScript code. So guys, what do we have to do whenever we want to use JavaScript inside of HTML? Curly braces, yeah. Again, whenever you want to use a JavaScript variable or JavaScript expression inside of HTML, you have to surround it with curly braces. Yeah? So that's pretty much the same thing. So we got the first picture, we got the second picture, Sarctopius, and finally we got the last picture. Picture equals exorcist. Exorcist. Yeah? So then, will it work? Will we have 3 different pictures? That's correct. That's correct. Was it Lauren? Okay, cool. So Lauren is right. We need to change. You see, guys, we're still pointing to megasarc. So can anyone apart from Lauren, because I know she knows that already, can anyone apart from Lauren tell me how should I proceed here? What should I type here on line number 11? Props.movie. Why movie? So type, yeah, nearly there. So typing props.movie will be the same. Yes, exactly. Yes, typing props.movie will be the same as typing props.coronavirus, right? So yeah, it's obviously props.picture because that's the information that we are facilitating further down. Yeah, props.picture. So if now we refresh the page, you see we got the first movie, we got the second movie, and we got the third movie. So that's actually the way we can bind with different properties. Of course, we imagine, guys, that we wanna add the score. You know, when you go to Rotten Tomatoes and they rate the movie, so we could do the same thing. We can give our rating for each movie. So for instance, score of Megasar, that's obviously a masterpiece. Then for Sarctopius, it's not that great, but it's still quite entertaining. Yeah, well, it's very fun. Yeah, that's a good point. Actually, many people say that these movies are bullshit, but they watch them and I got friends. Because I used to run shit film festivals in Spain in the past, and I got friends. I watched these movies many years ago, and they are all the time. I was such a horrible movie. Ha ha ha! That was crap. Ha ha! And like, hey, you had some fun, right? So the movie had some positive impact on you because you still remember the movie 10 years later. So, but anyway, yeah, I'm not gonna argue with these people anymore. So, Exos is not that great, but if you need to watch one of these, please prepare a bottle of whiskey and watch Megasaurus vs. Crocosaurus. So now my question is, how can I display the score associated to each movie? Well, easy peasy. Imagine that I want to display the score nearby the title on the right hand side. So what they can do is, I can, for instance, add parentheses and add, I don't know, score, colon. It's just plain text, you see, because it's not surrounded by any curly braces. It's just hard-coded text, and then I can display the score by typing props.score, something like that. You see? So now if I refresh the page, you see I got the movie title with the score, I got the Sarctopius with the score, and then I got the Sarc Exorcist with the score. Yeah, that comma is a bit weird, so let me get rid of it. So now, if we refresh the application, there is no comma at all. And that's the way you can obviously scale your application by adding more properties or whatever. In the future, we will see how to scale our component tree will learn how to move components to new files, new folders, all these sort of things. Yeah, but for now, that should help you to start dealing with components. This afternoon, we will see what an object is, how to access properties of an object, what an array is. So we'll talk about some technicalities about JavaScript. But for now, as a starting point, that should be enough. I have just sent you this snippet on Slack. I will do that often. So if you want to play a bit with different coding snippets, that's a good starting point. So do you have any questions? Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's, hmm. Yeah, I think. Oh, right, Vicky. Oh, sorry, guys. Give me a second. I've lost you. I've lost you. So yes, I think I got the question, Vicky. So just hold on until I can. No, my audio is gone. Can you still hear me, guys? Okay, because we're finishing. I'm not gonna deal with my headset again. But yeah, if I got the question that Vicky asked before, so Vicky's asking that some tags are self-closed. You see that slash and greater than symbol. That's a self-closing tag. Yeah. However, sometimes you'll see that some tags are explicitly closed like that. Yeah. So both coding styles are valid. You can open a tag and then explicitly close it, or you can use the shortcut, which is just self-closing tag. So when can we use a self-closing tag? Whenever there is nothing inside of the movie component. Can I use the self-closing tag on line number 18? Can I, guys? Can I do that?
No,
Why not?
because we've got inside it.
Exactly. You're right. On line number 18, you got a div, and the div has some content inside of it. That's why the div on line number 18 cannot be self-closed. However, do we have anything inside of the movie component? No, there is nothing. We're just delegating the responsibility of representing the user interface into the movie component. Because there is nothing inside of it, we can self-close it as a matter of simplicity, if you want.
But there is a reason why I just don't remember. I remember I had an error in the past with the image tag. Is there a specific with the image tag, like if it's self-closing, when it's not self-closing, you can get an error. Like,
so with the image tag, it's the same principle. However, why when you do something like that, you get an error? That's because the image tag belongs to the HTML standard. So according to the HTML standard, you cannot do something like that. That's illegal. What do you have inside of a picture? That's mind blowing. That doesn't make any sense. So that's why that throws an error as a way to protect the developer from doing silly things. Yeah, when you get an image has to be self-closing. Yeah, there is no alternative. But other tags can be self-closing or not. That's why with other tags you got two options. But with the image, you just have the self-closing tab option.
Okay.
Anything else, guys?
So basically here we introduced component, which is a function.
Yes.
We introduced attributes.
Yes.
An argument, which is a prop.
Yes, that's correct. Maxim, yeah.
All right, okay.
Yeah.
So that would be something new for me. So.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's fantastic, guys. It's fantastic because Maxim, that means that you've learned something new. Yeah. So
yeah, now I have to digest all of this. And
absolutely, guys. This is a message for Rafa because Rafa, I know you just joined this session. I'm gonna send you a link to this workshop in a minute on Slack. So feel free to rewatch it. And something I would like to invite you to do, guys, is to practice, not just to watch it, eating some popcorn, but also create a new project with React, and then just repeat my steps. I think that's the best way to get familiar with this coding mindset or coding with this mental structure. Yeah? Do you have any final questions?
Only one, and this is just out of curiosity. If we were to build this app out, theoretically, you're adding more and more and more movies, and you're getting more and more and more images. Would you, purely for readability, just create a second folder or something called images to store them, so it's not clogging up your workspace?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Who was the question? Was it
Max?
Max. All right, Max. Yeah. So that was a really good question, Max. So as part of Codeflix, we will see how this original rudimentary data structure gets migrated over and over and over towards a more scalable architecture. So we will see that at some point you will create. At the moment, you don't even have a component on Codeflix, right? You have just everything hard coded. On task number 7, I think you will create some sort of basic component like I did today. Then later on, you will move, and this is related to what you just said, we will move our list of components to an array written in JavaScript. At some point, you will move that array written in the front end to the backend. So you will have an API to obtain the list of movies from the backend. And at some point, if you progress enough with Codeflix, you will move the list of movies to a database, to a proper database, either locally or in the cloud. Yeah. So of course, you'll see that there is a journey, there is a migration process in order to make sure that our application scales. It goes without saying that Netflix, they don't hard code 3,000 movies on the index.html. They don't do that. But until we achieve that level of